California, February 1978. 5 men left a basketball game and started driving home. They never arrived. Their car was later found abandoned in the mountains, miles from their route. The engine was working. The fuel tank was not empty. There was no sign of an accident. Months later, some of the men were found dead. Others were never found at all. More than 40 years later, no one can explain why they went there or what truly happened. The case known as the Yuba County Five began with 5 ordinary men living in Northern California in the late 1970s. Their names were Gary Mathias, Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Ted Wire, and Jack Hewitt. All 5 were in their 20s and early 30s. Several of them had mild intellectual disabilities and lived with family members, but they were considered independent enough to work, socialize, and travel locally without supervision. They were not reckless, violent, or prone to running away. Gary Mathias, 25, stood out from the group. He was intelligent, served briefly in the U.S. Army, and had a history of schizophrenia, which was managed with medication. He was known to be protective of the others and was often described as the group's informal leader. Jack Madruga, 30, owned the car, a turquoise 1969 Mercury Montego. He lived with his mother and was considered responsible and cautious. He did not drink alcohol and was extremely protective of his vehicle. Bill Sterling, 29, was quiet and shy, deeply devoted to his family. Ted Wire, 32, was gentle and kind, living in a supervised home and working part-time. Jack Hewitt, 24, was the youngest, known for his easygoing personality. The men were passionate about sports, especially basketball. They were members of a local team that participated in Special Olympic-style competitions. On February 24, 1978, they planned to attend a basketball game at California State University, Chico, about 50 miles from their homes in Yuba City. They were excited. The next day, they were scheduled to play in a tournament, and the game in Chico was meant to be a casual outing. None of them packed warm clothing. None of them brought camping supplies. None of them told family they planned to travel anywhere unusual. They expected to be home that night. On the evening of February 24, 1978, the 5 men attended the basketball game in Chico. Witnesses confirmed they were in good spirits. After the game, they stopped at a local convenience store around 10 p.m., where they bought snacks and milk. Then they began driving south toward Yuba City, or at least that was the plan. Instead of taking the direct highway route home, Jack Madruga's car headed east, climbing into the remote Plumas National Forest region. This direction made no sense. The road led into mountainous terrain, far from their homes. Sometime during the night, the car became stuck in snow near a remote mountain road. When it was later found, investigators noted something critical. The car was not damaged. It was not crashed. It was not out of fuel. The battery worked. The doors were unlocked. Jack Madruga was known to panic at the idea of damaging his car, yet here it sat, abandoned. Inside the vehicle were wrappers from the convenience store. There was no sign of a struggle, no indication the men were forced out. Why they left the safety of the car in freezing conditions remains one of the central mysteries of the case. Temperatures that night dropped well below freezing. Snow was deep. The area was pitch dark and unfamiliar, yet the 5 men walked away. On February 28th, 4 days after the men vanished, Jack Madruga's car was discovered by a ranger. It was parked awkwardly on a mountain road, partially embedded in snow, but still operable. Footprints were visible in the snow leading away from the car, heading uphill, away from civilization. Search efforts began immediately. Local authorities, volunteers, and eventually the National Guard combed the area. Helicopters flew overhead. Dogs were brought in. Despite the scale of the search, nothing was found. The car's location added another layer of confusion. It was more than 70 miles from where the men should have been. No one could explain why they were there. One strange detail: the car was found near a mountain cabin used by forest rangers. Inside the cabin were supplies, food, blankets, and heating equipment that could have saved lives. The cabin had not been broken into. If the men reached it, why didn't they use it? Months later, when the snow melted, grim discoveries were made. In June 1978, Searchers found the remains of Ted Wire inside a forestry trailer approximately 20 miles from the abandoned car. He had died of starvation and exposure. He had lost nearly 100 pounds. Inside the trailer were enough food supplies to last a year. The heating system could have been used. Wire had wrapped himself in blankets, but he never opened the food crates. Nearby, the remains of Jack Hewitt were found scattered in the woods. Later, fragments believed to belong to Bill Sterling were also discovered. 2 men were never found: Jack Madruga, Gary Mathias. Gary Mathias's shoes were found inside the trailer, yet his body was not. The Yuba County Five remains unsolved because none of the men's actions make sense when viewed logically. Why did they leave the road? Why abandon a working car? Why walk uphill into deep snow? Why ignore shelter and food? Some speculate Gary Mathias may have experienced a mental health crisis. Others suggest the group encountered something frightening, though no evidence supports this. What is clear is that fear, confusion, or poor decision-making led to a tragic chain of events. These were real men, with real lives, who vanished into the mountains and left behind a mystery that still has no explanation.